Let me also go to congratulate the presenter. My first question relates to how did you come to reach these figures, given that at some point they could be over or underestimated, given the fact of the continuous collection of data. The second is I have always been an advocate for the improvement of the welfare of migrants or returnees, or whichever term could be ascribed to them, given that Niger is a focal point in the movement of
le mouvement des réfugiés, des migrants et de ceux qui rentrent. Sur les 384 millions de dollars que vous avez eus, n'aurait-il pas été possible que vous renforciez la compétence de ces migrants et de ces réfugiés pour qu'à leur retour, quand ils rentrent chez eux, ils puissent avoir cette capacité ou cette compétence qui leur permettrait de vivre? Dans quelle mesure vous pensez que cela, dans quelle mesure vous avez pu contribuer au renforcement des capacités des migrants ou bien de ceux qui rentrent chez eux? Je vous remercie.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je profite.
Je voudrais saisir l'occasion pour remercier le présentateur. J'ai un éclaircissement à demander. Dans le contexte humanitaire, vous dites qu'il y a un lien en ce qui concerne la sécurité alimentaire. Vous avez dit que 1,2 million de personnes ont...
E ainda nós vimos que as previsões para este ano 2019 serão de 1,75 milhões de pessoas. Este valor diz respeito apenas aos migrantes, aos deslocados, aos refugiados, ou tem que ver com a população nacional do Níger também? Muito obrigada.
About the food security, and the figure given was 4.2 million, and another 1.5 million may need additional food. So what are the strategies that you use with the Ministry of Agriculture or like-minded institutions that are working in agriculture to ensure that these gaps are filled in to provide timely food to the refugees? And you also went further to talk about the number of refugees, 120,000 and another 104,000. It will be very important also for us to have this aggregated data on the number of people who are female, both old and young, and who are men, both old and young, and where are they coming from, so that this will also help in our advocacy work in our respective countries. Thank you so much.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais aussi m'associer à ceux qui m'ont précédé de remercier le présentateur pour ce document précis et concis. Quand on parle de... Le Niger fait face à 5 crises majeures qui augmentent la vulnérabilité de plusieurs millions de personnes. On a cité la malnutrition, l'insécurité alimentaire, vous avez le document, etc. Nous savons que le Niger a fait vraiment des prouesses. Dans le temps, il y a eu une délégation des parlementaires de la CEDEAO qui étaient partis voir sur place. Et éventuellement, c'était très triste, c'est les enfants, les femmes et tout. Mais puisque le Niger seul, il y a eu plusieurs nationalités qui étaient concernées, il était question quand même de prendre des dispositions, certains pays, pour rapatrier les leurs afin de soulager les charges du Niger. Par exemple, la Guinée a pris position et a fait partir les leurs. Parce que dans tous les pays, il existe des camps de réfugiés et les immigrés, nous sommes tous concernés. Je voudrais savoir où en est le processus pour que chaque pays prenne en charge ces personnes déplacées, des immigrés, bien sûr, qui vont constituer un camp de réfugiés, parce que dans tous les pays, je le disais, ça existe. Alors, quelle est la solution après ce passage-là de nos parlementaires et des décisions qui ont été prises, quelles recommandations et où nous en sommes? Parce que ce que le Niger est en train d'enregistrer, certes que ce n'est pas seulement les Nigériens, il y a plusieurs nationalités. Donc, quelle est la stratégie d'approche pour pouvoir soulager afin que chacun prenne ses dispositions pour une vie meilleure, bien sûr, dans ce cas précis? Je vous remercie.
Document mis à notre disposition. Et dans sa présentation, nous avons eu une idée du nombre de déplacés au Niger, le rôle de chaque acteur au niveau du gouvernement. Et je voudrais lui poser la question de savoir quel est le rôle joué par les pays de départ de ces déplacés. Parce qu'il y a des ambassades au niveau du Niger, mais quel est le rôle? Parce que c'est des déplacés qui viennent de ces pays par suite d'une crise. Les pays de départ aussi doivent prendre ce problème à bras le corps parce qu'ils ne doivent pas laisser le tout sur le dos du Niger qui les accueille. Maintenant, quel est le rôle joué par ces différents pays à travers les ambassades? Ma deuxième question, je voudrais savoir exactement, parce que le thème de notre réunion, c'est par rapport à la prise en charge. Exactement si nous pouvons avoir des données par rapport à nos préoccupations, notamment sur le plan sanitaire. Quelles sont les dispositions prises? Sur le plan nutritionnel, qu'est-ce qu'on leur donne à manger pour qu'ils soient vraiment bien traités et qu'ils soient dans les meilleures conditions? C'est de ça qu'il s'agit. Parce que ce sont des gens qui se déplacent, ils sont cantonnés quelque part, bien sûr par rapport à leur sécurité, par rapport à leur santé, par rapport à l'éducation des enfants, par rapport à la nourriture, tout ce qui leur concerne. Nous voudrons avoir des actions concrètes menées sur le territoire nigérien en faveur de ces déplacés. Je vous remercie.
Muito obrigado, presidente. Também quero felicitar o orador. Como nós já temos experiência de ter refugiados, eu queria, primeiro ponto, Nhambali já tirou. Segundo ponto, qual é o plano desses refugiados para conseguir terrenos para fazer trabalho para eles mesmos? Porque no nosso país, quando temos muitos refugiados, conseguimos o terreno que o governo deu e nesse momento esses refugiados estão a trabalhar para eles mesmos. Fizeram plantações, fizeram agricultura. Eu penso que qual é o plano de Níger sobre isso, se não fica sempre esperar aquele que vem, aproveitar, fazer qualquer coisa para eles mesmos. Segundo, qual é o plano de regresso desses refugiados para outro país? Também apoio de embaixadas, de ONGs que ele já disse, para esses refugiados, porque é fardo tão grande para Níger. Muito obrigado, Presidente.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, maybe it's because I am hiding behind Honorable Barrow, that is why you didn't see me, so it's not your fault. But I want to join my other colleagues in thanking the presenter for his presentation. But I just want to say that I don't know whether it is because of the time that was allotted, which is about 30 minutes for this important presentation. That is why he was very brief. Because the subject under review itself, 30-minute presentation does not seem to be sufficient. Because listening to him and going through the slides, we will all see that what we have been told here this afternoon are the challenges, but not what they are planning by way of solving these problems moving forward. And that will be very important for us as members of parliament. The problems, it is good to know about them, but being a government official, and a very senior one for that matter, and considering the challenges that goes with the issues of refugees and internally displaced people, it is always good to have a presentation on what plans and steps they have and they are taking in ensuring that these issues are addressed and brought to a close. But also, if you go to the first part of the slide, item 1, the humanitarian background, under that head, on the left, we are talking about people suffering from food insecurity being 1.2 million in 2018. But the slide on the opposite, which is on the left, is not talking about food insecurity anymore. It is talking about nutritional care. And it is also talking about 2019 and not 2018. We will have expected to see what the projection in 2019 will have been for food insecurity. So we'll know whether it is going up or it is going down. That is also a challenge. And to slide 2, the general situation of camps and sites in Niger. That is also a challenge, because if you look, even though the number of refugees in Niger is estimated at 196,000, which is very, very high, but internally displaced persons is also very alarming, because we are talking about 254,000 internally displaced persons within Niger. We will have loved to know what the reasons are for seeing this increasing number in internally displaced persons within their own country. So these are, as I said, maybe it's because of the time that was available, but moving forward, we will be very much grateful if we get the internal solutions that have been looked into to not just correct these problems, but also to eliminate them. A lot of other things have been said by my colleagues, but again, I want to thank you very much as I look forward to future documents that will give us ideas that will assist us in solving these problems. I thank you very much.
En ce qui concerne le point 3 de la présentation, il a parlé des mécanismes de gestion des sites et camps, où il a divisé que le Niger a 2 catégories de camps, selon ce que je vois ici. Le premier cas, c'est des sites mixtes ou abritant simplement des PDI. Et le deuxième cas, camp des réfugiés. Ce que je voudrais avoir comme explication, c'est par rapport au premier cas où on parle de sites mixtes. Le terme mixte veut dire quoi? C'est par rapport aux déplacés internes, aux réfugiés ou autre chose. Ma deuxième préoccupation, c'est la suite de la question posée par l'honorable Ba par rapport aux données qui nous permettraient de voir l'évolution des déplacés au Niger. La réponse donnée par l'expert nous dit qu'il n'y a pas de guerre au Niger et que c'est une guerre asymétrique. Cela veut dire qu'au Niger, cela m'amène à comprendre que le terme de déplacé interne dont on parle au Niger n'est pas la même chose que chez moi au Mali par exemple, où nous avons des déplacés internes par suite de conflits entre communautés qui se déplacent des villages reculés vers les agglomérations, selon les identités bien sûr. Ce qui m'amène à poser la question à savoir, est-ce qu'au Niger, quand on parle de déplacés internes, il s'agit de quel genre de personnes qui fuient les villages et se déplacent à l'interne? Merci.
A well presentation. Secondly, I also go by the honorable from Cape Verde, who said that the people are supposed to, the professionals are supposed to suggest some suggestion, a solution to these problems. He made mention that the refugees the number of refugees increase day after day And this is as a result of what is happening, especially, as he said, in the neighboring country. And I think he is referring to Nigeria. And not only Zamfara State. The problem is increasing day after day, every day. In Zamfara, now it reached Sokoto. Sokoto is neighboring Niger. Zamfara also is neighboring Niger. Katsina, Kano, Jigawa, Maiduguri, all these states are suffering from the bandits' activities. And I think one of the things that we should look into, either we should suggest or we should advise the heads of states, what do you call it, head of state council, how to look into this problem. The thing is increasing every day. Like in Zamfara and Sokoto, every day, at least you have 5-10 villages that are being sent away from their towns. The bandits come, they kill people every day, at least even yesterday, they kill 40, they come kill 40, 50, then the ladies and the children run away and leave the town. So we have empty villages and towns, a lot of towns and villages in these states I mentioned, and every day they get into increase. And what will surprise you is that these people, these bandits, they move in hundreds in motorcycles, three people on each motorcycles, and in 100 motorcycles they move. And particularly I refer to Niger, because we are all one. Niger, Nigeria, and all these, the other 15 ECOWAS members country, we are all one. You see Niger, they allow I'm very sorry to say, they allow the US to have base in Niger. They have aeroplane, they have this drone, they have this and that. But before the emergence of this military in Niger, even the security in Niger is far better than what it is today. And who are the people that are supplying these people? We are told that they are being supplied with arms through helicopters in the night, sometimes in the daytime. Where do they get this? Because the arms they are getting, even our military and our policemen are not having that kind of arms they are using. It's far powerful than that of our military and that of our policemen. So this is something we must look into. Who are the people supplying these people, these bandits, the arms? From where? And how can to have an armor or these arms? It's not something that you put in your pocket and you hide, you go and take it. There must be somebody powerful behind these bandits. Otherwise, how can they have these motorcycles? How can they have armored tanker? How can they have all sorts of arms? So this is something we must look into, and we must find out who are the sponsors of these bandits. These bandits are beyond what we are thinking of. So we should find, as you said, we should find solution, because people that are sponsoring these people, they are far stronger than all our governments. So we should find a way of finding a solution to this problem. Otherwise, maybe in the next 2 years or 3 years, if this thing continue, in the next 2 to 3 years, all this state, you will find nobody. You will find nobody in those towns and villages. So this thing is very, very important, and we must suggest and find out how can we tackle this problem. Otherwise, in the next 3 years, nobody can predict what will happen. But the least is that you are not going to see anybody. And remember, these people that are being sent away from their towns and villages, they are the farmers. They are the real farmers, farming, feeding the urbans. But now, they have all moved to urban areas. So we don't have food. In the next, we are going to be starved. There will be no food, no farming, nothing. So this is very, very important. It's very important. It's an important thing that we must pay attention to, and we must find a way that we will assist ourselves to see that we prevent or we at least minimize this happening. Thank you very much.
J'interviens pour poser une question qui est la suivante. On a attendu que vous nous parliez des défis vous avez peut-être parcouru, mais je souhaite quand même que vous insistiez sur les défis que vous avez vus et qui sont à relever étant donné que le fondement de notre questionnement, c'est de trouver des solutions et de les proposer à nos chefs d'État et à tous ceux qui interviennent dans la résolution de ces crises-là. J'ai aussi une petite question qui concerne les déplacements internes. Je vois qu'au Niger, DIFA est très sollicité. Je vois qu'il y a des déplacements internes. C'est la même chose à Tillabéri, qui est lui plutôt sollicité en déplacement interne. Il y a aussi Tawa. Excusez-moi, je fais attention aux traducteurs, donc je suis leur rythme, c'est à cause de ça. Donc je souhaite que vous m'expliquiez pourquoi DIFA est si sollicité, et particulièrement pour les déplacements internes. Et éclaircissez-nous un peu de ce que vous pouvez nous permettre d'attendre lorsque vous dites que vous subissez une guerre asymétrique.